When dealing in the currency of fear, a rich man hides his wealth behind a wall of calmness and composure. These men guard their hearts and pretend their mother's bedtime stories do not leave them awake at night and have their bed sheets wet in the morning. They would face the Minotaur, the Chimera, and the Kraken and stand firm, thinking themselves to be heroes, thinking their destiny to be meant for greater. But the poor man would run, because the poor man accepts his fear, because the poor man knows that the beast, creature, nightmare in his presence is not something to be beheld or felled by human hands. He knows that true fear is a warning that you are an ant on the hillside and that the giants have come to walk. And so I ask you, brave souls, to embark once more on a journey into fear, as I introduce you to another batch of the most terrifying, mind-consuming creatures envisioned by the human mind. Imagine for a moment you are a painter for a small village. You wake up to sunlight beaming and birds singing, and the village is beautiful. Lavish trees and fresh river, everything you've ever wanted. You've made a living painting memories, and you hope this lasts forever. It's a life of your own making, and you are genuinely content. One day, after meeting with a newlywed couple to discuss their anniversary portrait, you prepare yourself for your daily rest. Logs burn in your furnace as the wolves howl outside, familiar sounds to you, calming even. You reach out for the embrace of sleep after a long day's labor, but strangely, it does not come. After the first hour, you brew yourself some tea and try again. After the third hour, you realize it's not helping. You can't sleep, and so you stand up. You make your way outside and trudge through the dark village until you reach the familiar home of the local alchemist, who seems to be asleep. You let yourself in using his spare key under the lamppost, and you're greeted with a long hall stocked to the brim with unfamiliar potions and concoctions. You call out for the alchemist, but it appears he's not in his usual sleeping spot in the back room. Searching his desk, you find a note. He's away on a trip. Damnation. You search the halls and their labels for something, anything at all to help with the sleep problem. That newlywed couple expects a painting tomorrow, and you will not be your best if you're not well rested. About to give up, you pull your hand away from another book that can't help you, and in doing so, you slap the book off the shelf. As you bend to pick it up, it shines with a mysterious glint. Hidden on the back of the fallen book appears to be a small potion, along with a label that reads, "The heart's desire made flesh." You ponder it, and so you drink it. It goes down surprisingly easy. You head back to your familiar home, dive into your familiar bed, and the lullaby of furnace crackling and wolves howling guides you to an easy sleep. Your heart's desire, after all, you are content. You jolt awake, or rather you try, but you cannot move. You are paralyzed. Sleep paralysis. And in front of you lies a horned creature with sharp eyes and a mischievous grin. He's laying on your chest, and he seems quite comfortable there. You freak out, or rather you try to freak out while paralyzed. What's going on? What's happening to me? What is this creature, you think? Your heart starts beating wildly, sweat forms on your head. You must be dead, or dying, or being tortured by some maniacal evil that has descended upon you for some untold sin. The creature cranes its neck. You awaken with a fright. The fireplace is spent, and the birds sing in the distance. No creature in sight. Everything looks normal. You take a deep breath. A bad dream, nothing more. Painting the newlywed couple later in the day, you're restless. It's not your best work and you know it. Something's wrong. You can't portray their joy at all. All the inspiration you found when you first moved here has been corroded by last night's experience. You look away from the posing couple. Take a sip of water. Maybe that will help. The paint splashes to the floor. Jolted, you look around. You ask the posing couple what happened, and they say you fell asleep right there while painting them, eyes open, standing up. You fell asleep. Jolted, you send the couple away, then you sprint to the alchemist's house. He seems to be back from his trip, and you demand he tell you what it was you drank. You describe it to him, but he swears he's never stocked anything like that, or ever labeled anything heart's desire. This must be a joke, you think. You laugh half-heartedly. All right, now, your fun's over, you say. Hand me the cure and I'll be on my way. The alchemist looks at you plainly. After a moment, you realize he's telling the truth. Stop the charade, you cry. What did I drink? You drop to the floor, knocking over bookshelves as you fall. The alchemist asks if you're alright, but you interrupt him and command him to give you something that will make you sleep like a rock and avoid dreaming at all costs. You run back home. That night, you lay in bed. Strangely, no wolves howl tonight. It's dead quiet. You wake up. You look around. The birds are singing and the trees are swaying. Everything is normal. It worked, you sigh in relief. You head to the alchemist's shop to thank him. You stop at the gate when you see him painting flowers for the entryway. You shout your thanks. He turns around. You run as fast as you can, running past villagers and townsfolk, buildings and signposts, and head to the local market where you find most of the people in town. All the bustling activity calms you down. At least here you are. You sprint off for the woods. You are losing your mind. Deeper thresh of the forest now. Civilization long behind you. You reach a mountain region. Keep climbing. Never look back. You find a cave. Enter it. A dead end. Nowhere to go. You collapse to the floor. You're going crazy. This is a dream. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. You wake. You are in your painting room. In front of you lies the newlywed couple you were painting, dead on the floor. Your eyes go wide. You step outside to see the village in ruin, houses burned. Every villager lies bleeding and dead on the floor. Who did this, you think? The demon. You catch a glimpse of a broken mirror, expecting to see your own image. Instead, you see the familiar creature. You look down to see a dagger in your right hand, wet with blood, and a torch in the left hand, burning aflame. That, my friends, is the Alp, the original sleep paralysis demon. They are described as eerie nature fairies that cause horrible dreams in an effort to make its host go mad and commit all kinds of base atrocities. The question is, however, is it the Alp that brings forth these evil acts? Or were they the humans' own desires all along? We're almost there, your lieutenant tells you as the military vehicle drives toward the seaside evacuation center. You look down at your communication device and study your assignment. You've been tasked to evacuate all 3,000 people from Seaside Unit LO-49. You grunt in acknowledgement. You'll complete this task by any means necessary. The rover comes to a stop, and you and your lieutenant exit to see the small evacuation center. Huddled in front of the base, a group of older men and women stare out with wide eyes. One of them, an older woman, refugee with tired eyes, walks up to you. "Have you come to save us?" she asks. "Yes," you reassure her. "I've come to rescue everyone here and bring them to the stronghold." You guide them inside and tell the older woman to gather the adults into a meeting room so you can discuss the evacuation. As you and your soldiers walk through the seaside military base, thousands of women, men, and children look up at you from their makeshift beds with hope in their eyes, smiling. You project your voice as you tell them, "Your nightmare is over." They smile and cheer as you and your soldiers walk past. The older woman points you toward a meeting room, where the adults of the evacuation center join you to discuss the plans for moving. The evacuation will mean round trips to the stronghold and back, and the first evacuated will be children, the elderly, and the pregnant or otherwise impaired. But you promise that everyone here is safe. No man should be left behind. The meeting concludes, and you tell the adults that the evacuation will start at 5 a.m. tomorrow. You promise that you and your soldiers will cover the night's watch, watching both the land and the sea for potential threats. Your lieutenant pulls you aside and says that you shouldn't have promised their safety. "Always say you'll try your best. your lieutenant tells you. Never say you'll do it for certain. You glance at your lieutenant. Always and never are cloaks for cowards, you say. I am neither. On the way to the wall to begin your watch, you run into the old lady refugee from before, and she smiles at you, and she reaches out her hand. Inside of it, a white lily flower. You nod as you accept the flower. Night falls and your watch begins. Standing on the guardrail, looking out on the sea, you reminisce about your early days as a commander, and about how when faced with your first large threat, you ran off and left your fellow soldiers to die while you survived. You think back on that moment with hatred and swear that never again will soldiers die on your account, not while you live and breathe. You clutch your pocket where the lady's lily rests secure. You watch the black waves rise and fall for a long while. A passing figure walks right in front of you. You turn to see the same old lady that gave you the flower walk by you. What are you doing awake, you ask. But she ignores you and she keeps walking forward, toward the beach. You watch her from the wall as she descends to the shore. Nothing out of the ordinary. She walks further toward the water. Nothing abnormal. She's reached the water's edge now. Nothing of note. She keeps walking. Whole legs submerged beneath the waves. Nothing out of the ordinary. A moment later, she's fully underwater. You calmly watch as she surely drowns beneath the waves. She disappears from view, swallowed by the ocean. Nothing abnormal. Nothing wrong. Stay vigilant. The next day, preparing to start the evacuation, your lieutenant asks you how the watch went. Nothing notable, you respond. He nods, and you start loading the elderly, impaired, and the young on the first evac vehicle. Bending down to pick up a child and help them on the rover, something drops out of your pocket. A white lily. You look at it for a moment. How did this get here? You've never been one to pick up flowers. You look at it for a while, vaguely sensing some attachment to it. But alas, it's probably loose dirt. Nothing to mind. You finish loading up the van, then tap it twice. They're good to go. Standing at watch, you look across the sea at the waves, watching for danger. From the corner of your eye, a group of people approach the shore. It's the old men, children, and otherwise impaired people you've just put on the first evacuation rover. They all approach the sea. Strangely, even the impaired people who just this morning could not walk on their own are walking perfectly in single form line toward the water. Coast is clear, you think. Nothing of note. The first elderly man submerges himself beneath the waves. Drowning. Nothing. The first child submerges. Out. Half of them have gone beneath the waves. The last child submerges into the water. The water is still now. No sign of human life. Ordinary, but stay vigilant for danger. No one will die under your watch. In the meeting room, you discuss the evacuation. But throughout the meeting, you can't take your eyes off the white flower in your hands. Something on the edge of your mind makes you believe it means something. As you look down at the flower, there's a flare-up in your mind, a sound, a fragrance. Your head burns with pain, and you drop the flower. Your soldiers look at you strangely, a rare moment of weakness. You tell them you're fine, and you start evacuating the second group. Another successful watch, you think? You thought at least by now that some small creatures would have attacked, drawn by the sound of the evacuation vehicles. But nothing? In all your years, creatures only stay away for one reason, and one reason only. They are scared. Scared of something stronger than them. And if that were true, then that would mean that the place you currently are is the hunting ground for no ordinary beast. But no one's been hunted, you think. It doesn't make sense. You stare at the lily in confusion. Everyone has been accounted for. Every day you take the tally and everyone is present. You can't shake this feeling though, you think to yourself. Call it premonition, guessing, fate. You know in your heart that something is wrong. There's no time to stagger the evacuation. You will instead all march on foot at the same time and leave this place for good. We need to get out of here. I can feel it. They stare at you with confused glances. This isn't up for debate, you say. Tomorrow, we leave. Everyone leaves. You then take your place on the wall later that night for your final watch of the coast. The sea is dark, its waves a tempest, and you are the most alert you've ever been. Not even a raindrop could fall without you noticing. Everyone in the evacuation base walks onto the beach. Young, old, women, men, your own soldiers and guards. Every single person in the base walks onto the beach. You look out, coast is clear. Watch for danger. The people on the shore stop in unison. You feel the weight of responsibility. These people, even your own soldiers, they're all depending on you to lead them to safety. You will lead them, and no one will be left behind. And you will do it now. You walk down the wall and walk onto the beach. Thousands of people, including your own guards, all turn at the same time. You nod and feel your glorious purpose. No one left behind. You step into the water and they follow you. First your leg, then your waist, then your entire body goes into the water. And behind you, the refugees and the soldiers all follow you, and you lead them into the sea, into the waves, into its jaws.
Hey, you're finally awake.
That, my friends, is the terror of LO49. This beast is from a light novel called Shadow Slave. It can use mind manipulation to lure people into its jaws while rendering others incapable of stopping it by blinding them of what is happening. As long as one is in the presence of a mesmerized victim, the others will instantly forget what they had seen. Although I tried my best, I am nowhere near the level of Guilty 3, the Shadow Slave author, and so I would implore each and every one of you, if you had time, to check out Shadow Slave.